In this Cricut tutorial for beginners, I am showing you how you can quickly and easily DIY a little boy's Valentine's Day shirt as well as a little girl's Valentine's Day shirt. And in the process, I'm showing you the best way to apply and layer heat transfer vinyl. So let's get crafty. Hey, I'm Michael from the Mr. Crafty Pants YouTube channel, where I show you the best ways to use your Cricut cutting machine. And I'm over here yet again on the Design Bundles YouTube channel because we have partnered up to bring you all another Cricut tutorial that is perfect for Cricut beginners, because basically I'm walking you through every single step and kind of guiding you all along the way. So be sure that you stay tuned until the very end of today's episode, because y'all do not want to miss out on a single Cricut minute, especially today, because y'all, love is in the air. It may be early January 2021, but y'all, everybody's already getting prepped and ready for Valentine's Day, and I am so here for it. So that is exactly why I'm showing you all how to make a little boy's Valentine's Day shirt as well as a little girl's Valentine's Day shirt. And in the process, I'm also showing you the best ways to apply and to layer HTV, also known as heat transfer vinyl or iron-on vinyl. So this is gonna be so much fun. So to get started, we are obviously gonna need some supplies to make this magic happen with, right? And that includes a cutting machine. Now y'all, over on my channel, I specialize in Cricut cutting machines. So I will definitely be using my Cricut Maker that is sitting out here on this counter. However, this process will work with nearly any type of die cutting machine as long as it works with SVG cut files. So that would include obviously the Cricut Maker, but also the Cricut Explore Air 2 or Cricut Joy or Silhouette Cameo or Brother Scan and Cut. Y'all get the idea. And since we're also working with heat transfer vinyl, we're obviously going to need a heat source like an easy press right here. Now you can also obviously use a heat press, and even with the type of heat transfer vinyl that we're using today, you can even use a household iron, although that is just a tad more tricky. I'll cover a few of those steps here in just a little bit. To go along with that Cricut Easy Press, I will also be using a Cricut Easy Press mat. And we're also obviously going to need some HTV. Now, if you are new to this entire Cricut world, HTV stands for heat transfer vinyl, although some companies call their version an iron-on vinyl. With that being said, not all heat transfer vinyl is created the same. There's definitely a difference in quality out there, and StarCraft Softflex ranks up there super high in my book as far as quality goes, as far as the finish, how it works with fabric. I mean, just the whole 9 yards. It's amazing quality. I also love that it is a soft, buttery, like matte finish, and it blends in gorgeously with the fabric that you're applying it to. I love this stuff all around. I especially love how affordable it is. And by the way, links to all this stuff will be listed and linked for you all down in that description box below. And I also like to go through and find some promo codes for you all to use as well. We are also going to need a cover sheet to apply our HTV with, and I love using a Teflon cover sheet. You can use these things over and over again, I think like up to 1,000 times. These things are just all around amazing. However, if you don't have one of these, you can also use parchment paper. I just feel like parchment paper doesn't dissipate or disperse the heat quite as nicely as a Teflon sheet does. We are also going to need some t-shirts to apply our designs to, and I am actually using these little raglan t-shirts right here from Hobby Lobby. I just love these things. They're super soft. And last but definitely not least, we're going to need some SVG cut files to use as our designs. So let's hop over to designbundles.net and I'll show you the ones that I'm using. Now you guys, I am absolutely obsessed with these SVG cut files. These are just so cute. I'm really loving this one right here that I'll be using for the little boy's Valentine's Day shirt. And if you take a look up here at the price, it is marked down from $3 down to $1.50. Now, I cannot make any promises that that price could be changed by the time that you actually watch this video and go check it out for yourselves. However, $1.50, that is such a great deal. I mean, heck, Even at $3 for as cute as this design is, I think that's a great deal as well. Now let's take a look over here at the SVG cut file that I'm using for the little girl's Valentine's Day shirt. And that is this one right here. I mean, this one is so cute as well, the Love Bug SVG cut file. And this is also marked down from $4 down to $2.80. But just keep in mind, that price could change a little bit by the time that you're actually watching this video. Now I do have both of these files already in our cart, so I'm gonna go ahead and click to check out. And here they are right here. So what I'm gonna do is come right down here and select continue to payment. And this is where you select your payment method. So you could actually load some money into store credit and actually get a discount that way. Or you could also just pay with PayPal or with like a debit card or credit card as well. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I'm gonna select that option and then select pay with selected card. And there we go. So I'm gonna select download your products. And this is the page where we download those. So I'm gonna select download files. And once we selected that, this little zip file became available right here. So I'm gonna select that. And since I am using Chrome as our browser, it did go ahead and download down here towards the bottom left-hand corner of the page. If you are using a different type of browser, you may have to go to your downloads folder to find that. So I'm gonna go ahead and scroll down here just a little bit and select download files again. And I'm gonna select that zip folder as well. And here they are both down here at the bottom left-hand corner. I'm gonna go ahead and select those because we do need to unzip those files before we can actually upload those into Cricut Design Space. So basically just by selecting those, it went ahead and unzipped that for us. So let me go ahead and select the other one, the Love Bug, and that one is now unzipped as well. So now let's head over here to Cricut Design Space and get started with this. All right, so here we are on the Cricut Design Space canvas. Now to upload these, I'm just gonna come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click on Upload. And I'm gonna come up here and select Upload Image. And then I'm gonna select Browse. And here is our files right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this little tractor. And I'm gonna select this file that says SVG Supply. And right over here is the option that ends with .svg because we are wanting to upload the SVG version of this into Cricut Design Space because SVG cut files are layered files and SVG files is what works out the best with Cricut Design Space. So I'm gonna select that and then select Open. And here it is right here in our recently uploaded images. So let's go ahead and select Upload Image again, and then on Browse. And this time I want to select on Love Bug. And here is that .svg file right here. So I'm gonna select that and then come down here and select Open. And there it is right here in our recently uploaded images. So I'm actually gonna select both of those, just like so. And then we can come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Insert Images. There we go. So this little tractor image right here is a little large. So let me select that and then grab this little resize handle right here and then just shrink that down a bit. All right, so they're both approximately about the same size right now. So what I'm actually gonna do is select one of those. Let's select the Love Bug right here. And as you can see, once I selected that, we can now look over here in the layers panel and see that there is a lot of layers that create this one image. So let's go ahead and just clean that up just a hair. And I'm gonna do that by coming up here and selecting Ungroup. And then I'm gonna go through here and basically attach or weld these different elements together. So I selected this option right here that's like more of a tealish color. And so by holding down my Shift key, I can now select this other option that's teal, just like so. And then I can come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Attach. Sometimes weld and attach is interchangeable. You could use one or the other. If you really wanted to clean all this up and you just wanted to make it one solid layer, you could actually weld that instead, just to make one clean solid layer. But you know, attach works for this as well. So let's select these other layers. So I'm gonna go through here and holding down my Shift key, start selecting all of the black layers. So since some of these elements are actually overlapping, like where it says bug and the arrow and all of that, what I'm actually going to do is come down here and select weld instead of attach this time. And as you can see right here, that turned all that into just one solid image. All right, so now I'm gonna come down here and select all of the red, just like so. Holding down my Shift key, I'm gonna select this other red heart, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner, and we can just select attach for that. All right, so now let's move on to our tractor right here, the I Dig You SVG cut file. So just by selecting that, we can now see that that is all selected over here in the right-hand side of the page in the layers panel. So what I'm actually gonna do is ungroup all of this up here at the top right-hand corner. All right, so coming over here again, I'm basically going to click on the black layer and then proceed to select all the other black layers as well. All right, so since all of the black elements is selected, I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner. And since none of them are overlapping at all, I'm gonna go ahead and just select attach. But again, this is a situation where weld would also work. All right, so this yellow layer right here is just one solid layer. We don't have to worry about doing anything with that. But with these hearts, I did go ahead and just leave them grouped because they're all grouped as one solid color. And we can now come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select attach. All right, so now that we have everything attached or welded where it needs to go inside of both of these designs, what I'm actually going to do is just click and drag over each of these designs and then come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select group. All right, so basically just by grouping each of these designs together collectively, we can now resize them collectively to fit onto our shirt. Now, as far as resizing them for our shirt, what I'm actually going to do is come over here to the top left-hand corner and select templates. And then I'm gonna come over here and just do a search for shirt. And I'm gonna select this baseball t-shirt right here. Now, unfortunately, at the time of filming this template option is not available in Cricut Design Space for tablets or phones. Now, hopefully that'll be fixed soon, fingers crossed. So if you are using a tablet or phone for all of your design work inside of Cricut Design Space, what you'll need to do instead is actually just take down the measurements manually on the shirt, figure out how big you want it, and then resize that accordingly. But as far as the sizing goes right here for our template, what we can actually do is come up here towards the top left-hand corner, and right here where it says type, and we're actually going to select kids. And right here for the size, we are using a small size shirt. However, you could obviously change that if you needed to. And I'm gonna grab one of these designs like so. And I can grab this little resize handle and just drag this outwards. All right, so I'm really liking this size right here for this shirt. So let's go ahead and just drag this out of the way. Then we can drag our other design down here and resize that accordingly as well. All right, so I'm really liking how that's looking there as well. So let's go ahead and come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Make It. All right, so this is our mat preview screen. Now, not only does this screen show you where at on your mat your design is going to cut out, but it's also the page where you need to mirror your designs if you're using HTV, or at least 99.9% of HTV you'll need to mirror. So you can do that by coming over here to the left-hand side of the page and selecting this mirror option right there. And basically that just flips our design over. So let's come down here and select the other options as well. Now, as far as these reds and blacks go, I think we can fit more than one of these onto a cutting mat. So what I'm actually going to do is select the little three dots right here at the top left-hand corner of our design, and we can select Move Object. And I can select to move it onto this other red mat right here, and then select Confirm. All right, so we can now just drag that over here off to the side, so it's not going to cut out right over top of our other design. And as far as our black mats, let's see here. I'm not entirely sure if we can make both of these fit, but we'll try. So I'm going to select the three dots up here at the top left-hand corner, select Move Object, and I'll try moving it onto this other black mat right here. Select Confirm, and then let's see if we can rearrange this to make it work. And there we go. That's going to work out perfectly. So we're saving ourselves a lot of time there by doing that. All right, so now that that is all taken care of, let's now come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Continue. All right, so this is the page where we are setting our base material cut settings. Now, we are using the StarCraft Soft Flex Heat Transfer Vinyl. However, what I found to be the best setting for that is the Everyday Iron-On setting right over here. So I'm going to select that. Now, if you're working with a brand new material for the very first time, please, please, please do test cuts to make sure that you have your cut settings where they need to be. So for test cuts, what I usually do is bring a shape onto the canvas, resize it down to about 1/2 inch or so. I usually do a star, and then proceed to cut it out and weed it out, all of that, just to make sure that it cut out properly. If it did, great, you know that you have the right cut settings for your larger design. However, if it doesn't, then you know that you need to actually make some little tweaks to that before you waste a lot of vinyl cutting through a larger design, only to find out afterwards that the cut setting just was not right for that material. All right, so whenever you're applying HTV or heat transfer vinyl, aka iron-on vinyl, to your cutting mat, 99.9% of the time, you want to make sure that the shiny side is going face down onto the cutting mat. So this side right here. Now this other side, not really sure if you can tell on camera or not, but this other side is more of like a dull finish to it. You can definitely tell the difference whenever you're feeling it, but basically the shiny side goes face down onto the cutting mat. Now for those who are watching from over at my channel, you all already know what I'm about to do. Whenever I'm removing a type of material from my cutting mat, what I like to do to help prevent any damage from occurring to the material is flip the mat over and peel the mat away from the vinyl, or in this case HTV, instead of the other way around. Now while the other mats are cutting out, I'm gonna go ahead and trim out our designs and get started weeding. And to weed everything out, I'm using my favorite pin weeding tool, this little guy right here. It's like this little microscopic pin that pops out of the end of the tool, and it just makes it so much easier to weed out any of your materials. Like, I just love this thing. Alright, so I have everything all weeded out. So what I'm going to do now is heat up my Easy Press. I'm going to hit this little thermometer button right here, and then come over here and set our temperature. So for this, it should be 285 degrees, and it looks like it's already set to 285 degrees. However, if it wasn't, you could also just, increase the temperature or lower it with this little plus and minus button right over here. Now, as far as the time goes, this is typically 8 to 10 seconds. So I can go ahead and click this little stopwatch icon right there, and we can increase that to 10 or 8. Let's just leave it at 9 though. That should work. Now, if you are using a household iron to apply your heat transfer vinyl, I do highly recommend at least using the StarCraft Soft Flex heat transfer vinyl, because not only does it have a lower temperature setting, at least compared to other heat transfer vinyls on the market, but it also has a shorter time duration as well, at between 8 to 10 seconds. Now, mind you, that time duration is probably going to change a little bit when you're actually using a household iron, and that's because a household iron, the plate does not heat evenly whatsoever, especially when compared to the heating plate for an actual Easy Press or heat press. So you're just going to have to really babysit it, just really take your time and make sure that it does get a really good adhesion to the fabric or the material that you're applying it to. I do have a video over on my channel if you want to check that out that kind of goes over all of the ins and outs of using a household iron, so feel free to check that out if you'd like to do so. But as for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and grab our t-shirt and we'll start applying our heat transfer vinyl. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay this out over my Cricut Easy Press mat right here. Now, this step is extremely important, although so many people skip over it. So please do not skip over this. And that step is all about preheating your fabric or preheating your material. Preheating it not only gets all the moisture out of the garment, but it also gets all the wrinkles out as well, and it allows for the HTV to get a much better adhesion to the fibers of the shirt. If you've ever had your iron on vinyl or heat transfer vinyl wanting to peel up shortly after applying it or shortly after washing it, one of the issues that could have happened is that you didn't actually properly preheat it before applying your heat transfer vinyl. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab my Easy Press here, and let's go ahead and just go over this for about 8 to 10 seconds or so. Now, what I like to do to actually take this up one step further is I actually like to fold this shirt in half, shoulder seam to shoulder seam. And once you have that perfectly folded in half, go ahead and grab your heat source again, and then just go right over top of this. Now, not only does that preheat that just a little bit more, but it also puts a nice little crease right down the center of our shirt, which makes this a whole lot easier to line our HTV up on, because we know what the exact center of the shirt now is. Now, if you're not really sure about where exactly to apply all this to your material, what you can do is actually just go ahead and grab your other pieces like so, and then just quickly just kind of lay this right over top, just like that. And then you can kind of pick up the entire piece all together, all the layers on top of each other, and then just place it to wherever it looks centered on the shirt. I typically like to start the design about 2 to 3 finger widths below the collar. All right, so right about there should work. So we can go ahead and peel off these 2 upper layers, just like so. All right, so we are now ready to apply the heat to our first layer of HTV. So I'm gonna grab our cover sheet real quick, and then just cover this up. All right, so I know I said earlier that whenever you're applying the StarCraft Soft Flex HTV, that we would apply it at 285 degrees for 8 to 10 seconds. Now that 8 to 10 seconds, that is if you're applying just one layer and one layer only. If you're actually applying multiple layers like we are today, you actually want to do what's called like the tack it method, where you're basically tacking down each and every single layer until you have all of the layers down, and then you'll press them all together collectively for the full amount of time. So I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So let me go ahead and grab our Easy Press, and let's just make sure that we're covering the entire design just like this. And then I'm gonna just tack it down for about 3 seconds. All right, so we can go ahead and pull back the cover sheet, and then very, very carefully, you can do like a hot or like a warm peel. Just like that. So now we'll just repeat that same exact process. We can go ahead and apply the next layer. And for that next layer, let's go ahead and just do the hearts. Why not? And again, we're gonna press for another 3 seconds or so. Now, as far as pressure goes, whenever you're doing all this, pressure is just so subjective, right? And this does call for medium pressure. Now, for medium pressure, just think of it this way, and this might give you a little bit better of an idea of just exactly how much pressure to apply. Think about a sheet of paper being between the actual Easy Press and your actual garment. And then think about trying to yank that sheet of paper out between that Easy Press and your garment, and just imagine applying just enough pressure to where you could not, for the life of you, yank that sheet of paper out. So that's how much pressure you're wanting to apply with all this. All right, so now for our last layer. There we go. So let's go ahead and cover this back up. And let's go ahead and just do another 3 seconds. Now there are some people who would go ahead and press for the full amount of time on this last layer, just like we did right here with that carrier sheet. However, the reason I don't like to do that is because that carrier sheet itself could leave indentions into the other layers of HTV if you apply that for the full amount of time. So what I like to do is actually go ahead and just tack down that last layer even, remove that carrier sheet, then we'll cover it back up with the Teflon sheet and then press for the full amount. Now, some people are worried about the actual HTV sticking to the Teflon sheet, and you don't have to worry about that because, well, the adhesive is on the bottom side of that HTV, so there's no worries about that whatsoever. Right, so let's go ahead and cover this up one more time, and let's do the full 8 to 10 seconds. I'll probably do around 8 seconds or so, just because we have already pressed this. Guys, I just love how this blends in basically perfectly into your shirt. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Like, one of the reasons that the Starcraft Softflex HTV has quickly become one of my favorite go-tos for HTV. It's just all around amazing. All right, so now we're gonna do the same exact process with this other t-shirt, but since we've already went through all the steps, I'm just gonna kind of speed through this one starting now. So basically we're preheating the shirt, folding that shirt in half, preheating the back of the shirt while it is folded in half, just so we can line everything up properly onto the shirt. I'm taking the hearts like so, and then applying this layer right over top of it. So that we can now pick that up collectively and then place that wherever it needs to be onto that shirt. All right, so that is positioned exactly where we want it to be. So we can go ahead and remove this top layer. We're gonna cover this up with our cover sheet, and then we're gonna apply our Easy Press or our heat press for just a few seconds. Go ahead and pull back the cover sheet, and then slowly and very carefully removing the carrier sheet. Now let's go ahead and apply our other layer. Cover this up with the Teflon sheet, and we're gonna press it for another 3 seconds. And then very, very carefully pulling back that carrier sheet, and then covering this back up with the Teflon sheet, and then pressing for the full amount of time. Now, as far as the aftercare goes for these t-shirts, I highly recommend waiting at least 48 to 72 hours before washing the shirts, or for that matter, even getting them wet. Now, whenever it does come time to wash these, I highly recommend washing them inside out in cold water without fabric softener. And then as far as drying goes, I really recommend letting them air dry up on a hanger or just laying out flat. Doing those few things will make your t-shirt last so much longer, and you'll be thanking me later, I promise you. Now, if you all liked today's episode, or if you learned something new, it would honestly mean the world to us if you took 2 seconds to stamp that like button, as well as drop a comment down in the comment section below. Both of those things help us out tremendously here on YouTube, and it is just so extremely appreciated. Also, while you're at it, if you are new around here to this Design Bundles YouTube channel, you may want to consider stamping that subscribe button and then ringing that little bell for all the notifications, because this channel is constantly, and I do mean constantly, putting out new crafty content, and I promise you, you do not want to miss out on a single crafty minute. Thank you all so much for watching today's episode. It truly does mean the world to us, and until next time, stay crafty.